Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the future of regional banking? Sure.
I think we have a strong set of regional banks in the United States. I think it was, and as a general matter, their liquidity has remained stable through this episode. And I think it was a good indication, frankly, that in the two failed institutions, in both of those cases, the strongest bids we received to acquire those failed institutions were from two other regional banks that had the capability and strategic business interest to acquire them. So there are a lot of cautionary lessons to be learned from the Senator. I completely agree with that. And we're going to need to carefully review this episode. But as a general proposition, I think the regional banks in the United States remain a source of strength for the system.
I'd say I walked in on the chairman's comments about the actions that were taken the weekend of the March 9th and how important it was and the importance of making sure we get credit for doing something that actually I thought could have been avoided, frankly. I thought it could have been avoided if we had someone in the private sector make the decision to buy the bank, buy the assets. Had that been done on Friday, March the 10th, I think we could have literally eliminated the fiasco that we saw over the weekend. Were there folks interested in buying Silicon Valley Bank on Friday?
Senator, just to be clear, before the bank failed on an open institution basis?
After.
After the failure on a closed basis.
Yes.
We had expressions of interest. I mean, remember, this was a very rushed process, if I may say. The bank failed on Friday morning. We had to, the other institution failed over the weekend. We had to set up two bridge institutions to manage those failed banks. To your point, though, we had expressions of interest. We quickly set up a bidding process that we ran on Sunday. We received two bids. One wasn't valid because it had not been approved by the board of the bank, and the other, after we evaluated it, indicated that it was more expensive than a liquidation of the institution would have been to the FDIC. So in effect, we did not have an acceptable bid, and it was really a determination that we made to try to set up two bridge institutions to manage for a short period of time these two failed banks, and then to organize a bidding process, an open bidding process for both institutions, which we ultimately were able to implement successfully and sell Signature Bank previous weekend, 2 weekends ago, and then to sell SVB this past weekend.
Are you suggesting that the fact that the board had not approved the decision off the offer that was on the table was the primary reason why you turned down that offer?
It was one of the bids. As a matter of, we were required for a bank to make a valid offer for the board of the bank.
To approve the offer.
Yeah, as a matter of
that was the primary reason why you did not go
for that bid. The other bid did not have that issue, but the other bid was more costly than liquidation would have been.
So you're suggesting that a private sector engagement would have increased the cost, not decreased the cost?
At that point, I think in part because it takes a bit of time for, this was a substantial institution, it takes some time for a bank to do appropriate due diligence, to evaluate the assets and liabilities, and to make an informed bid for the institution. And I think as a practical matter, that was difficult to do given the compressed time frame over that initial weekend. I think that's why we set up the bridge institutions to try to put in place quickly an orderly bidding process where any interested party could submit a bid, have an opportunity to do due diligence in order to evaluate the institution, and to make an informed bid. I think we were ultimately able to do that for both of these failed institutions.
I'll just say with my remaining time that I look forward to the second round of questions, but I will say without question that if we would have had a better private sector engagement with quicker action from the feds, I think we could have avoided the concept that rushed us to a decision, which was a concern of contagion in part that could have been avoided if we had a decision made on Friday, if there were private sector folks willing to make a decision. But we'll have an opportunity, hopefully, on the second round.